It's an odd kind of Icelandic story. This is the demon on the beam. There was, a long time ago, a farm in Iceland where, generally speaking, people were quite happy. They worked hard, they tended their animals, they liked their animals. The cows yielded lovely, thick, rich milk. The farm was prosperous and successful. But there was one young man who really wasn't happy. And he didn't really get on with everybody else. And he swore and swore. He had an amazing vocabulary for swear words. And some he'd invented. And it was beginning to get everyone else down. So there came a time when, I don't know what he would be, farm manager, I suppose, nowadays, came to one side and said, this has to stop, you know. All this bad language of yours, it's really got to stop. And so the boy humped out of the room, and perhaps he slammed the door. A few days later, the bishop was visiting the farm, and he overheard two people complaining about the young man and saying how he's swearing and how it was getting everyone else down. So the bishop spoke to the young lad and said, when you go into the cow barn tomorrow to tend the cows, you will find that there'll be somebody watching you. And so the young man had quite a lot to say about that as soon as he was out of earshot. And the next day he humped into the barn, muttering about the old bishop. And what an old, well, insert the word of your choice here, the bishop was. And he'd kind of been expecting to see maybe an old woman sitting on a milk stool in the corner with her knitting. And he didn't see anyone at all. And he kind of looked round. And he heard a burp. And he looked up, and there, sitting on the crossbeam of the barn, was peculiar, was an odd, thin, grey-skinned creature with a long tail that was dangling down from the beam, and the tail was twitching. And the boy didn't even have to ask the creature, who are you? Because the creature, and of course he was a demon, you've already worked that out, haven't you? I think you worked that out before the young man did. And the demon said, I have been sent to watch you. And perhaps in a few weeks' time I will take you with me, and you will serve my master until the end of time. And the young man thought, I don't think so, and swore angrily. And the demon grinned as he ate the words that the young man had said. And it seemed to the young man that the demon, his skin grew a little darker, his eyes grew a little brighter, and his belly grew a little rounder. And days passed, and the demon soon became like plump as a barrel, and his skin was jet black, and his fur was all bright and bushy. And the young man started thinking about the possibility of serving the demon's master until the end of time. And so for a few days, he stopped swearing and he stopped slapping the cows. And he tried to be a bit more cheerful and he tried to talk to people. And he talked to one of the very pretty milkmaids that he'd sort of liked for a long while. And they began to chat. And he realised that she liked him too. And after a little while, the demon seemed to shrink again and seemed to grow from black to grey and lost a lot of its lustre. And all was going well. Until one morning, the young man went into the cow barn to begin work, and all the cows' tails had been tied together, and the straw, the hay, had been tossed all over the barn, and a young man was so angry that he took a spade and smashed the milk stools, and from above him he heard a laugh. And of course it was the demon feeding on all that anger. And so the young man set to untying all the cow tails and helping them back to the proper place in the barn and feeding them and calming the cows down. And he mended the milking stools that he'd broken. And he sang to the cows a song that his grandmother had taught him, just to help them calm down a little. And he found himself being calmer and being better. And later that day, when he saw the pretty young milkmaid, they talked for a bit more. And they carried on talking. And the young man carried on singing the song that his grandmother had taught him. And there came a time when the demon had shrunk so small that when the young man went into the cow barn to begin work, it just wasn't there. And of course, you're ahead of me here, aren't you? And you've already worked out that of course, the young man and the pretty milkmaid were married, and it was the bishop himself who bound them together. And of course, they had many children. And of course, the man taught the children the songs that his grandmother had taught him. And the only person who doesn't come out of this story well was the demon, because when the demon realised that he was beginning to starve, he fell from the beam down onto the barn floor into a great big pile of cow poo. I don't know what kind of noise a demon makes when it falls into a great big pile of cow manure, so you'll have to do your own sound effects. I kind of like that. I kind of like that as an ending to the story. But of course, I suppose the real ending is that the young man and the milkmaid lived. This is your line, you get to do this happily. Come on, you get to do this. Lived happily ever after. because this can happen on Iceland too. Lots more Icelandic stories coming up, so do subscribe to my channel. Do check out. See you soon.